Well, so Kojo is back, and Kojo, look, we have to do the newspapers. Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. Well, we'll also have some detailed discussion, especially from you, on some picks you have in a couple of the newspapers. But would you start for us? That would be good.
Well, I thought perhaps we would go through the headlines.
Yes, definitely. So just choose any and go through.
Right, Ro, you have the headlines where you are.
Okay. All right. So I will start with the Daily Graphic. The Daily Graphic has on the front page, doctors poised for action. And you have it just in a split second on your screens. Vow to sacrifice lives in COVID-19. And the story is found by presidential reporter Donald Atodapateng. It's been a while, my good friend. Good morning to you, wherever you are. And it says the president of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Frank Ankobia, has given an assurance that its members, they are prepared to go the extra mile to fight the disease. We know what the president said during the event. Also on the front page of the Daily Graphic, we do have a public defy lockdown directive in Accra, Kumasi. Is that the case? That's why we do have DSP, Ifyatingi, PRO for the Ghana Police Command, Accra Region, or the Ghana Police Service for the Accra Region Command. And then also ACP Kwesifori, Director of Operations, again Accra Region, will be joining us, and we'll have some great interaction. Alongside Festus Abuaje is a retired Army officer, very distinguished gentleman. He's now a security consultant and analyst, so we'll have some input from him as well. On the back page of the Daily Graphic, customs officials intercept smuggled goods in Nantom. And on the side, MTN supports government with $5 million, 5 billion Ghana cedis to fight COVID-19. All right. Let's move on to the next paper. And then we have the Ghanaian Times. Kojo, you want to do the Ghanaian Times?
Ro, I have these headlines on my phone.
Okay.
On my phone.
Technology.
Yeah.
All right. So let me straight away just also go through the Ghanaian Times. We have on the front page, government rolls out tax relief. Alliance of officials also there. It says allowances for health workers. All also announced. We also do have minority decries termination clause in Unipass contract. The main banner headline is captioned, COVID-19 combats, we will come out with better health system. The president promises. Meanwhile, the president has sent a goodwill message to the British Prime Minister, who is still in admission in an ICU in the UK. Minority, though, they're decrying the termination of this Unipass contract clause, and that also is captured same on the front page of the Business and Financial Times. They continue with their COVID-19 stories and its effect on the economy. And the Business and Financial Times says economy to grow slower in 37 years. All should tighten their belts. If you read the story, you also get to know how that could have a greater impact, especially on various sectors, manufacturing, the finance sector, the services sector, which has been contributing significantly to GDP over the last decade and a half. And that story is there. $93 million termination clause in Unipass deal. Strange, MPs and the minority members in Parliament have described this termination clause as strange and worrying, in quotes. Firms producing essentials should be helped extensively, according to the Association of Ghana Industries. On the back page of the Business and Financial Times, the Bank of Ghana is providing 25 million Ghana cedis to feed 400,000 needy Ghanaians. And it says the Bank of Ghana has made available some $25 million Ghana cedis to support government's effort to cater for 400,000 vulnerable Ghanaians struggling to feed themselves and their families during the lockdown in the cities of Accra and Greater Kumasi. Meanwhile, we have the FBN Bank easing the economic effect of COVID-19 on customers. And they've announced some relief packages. They've provided extensions and repayment moratorium to some customers whose businesses have been affected or hit hard by the pandemic. In addition, the bank has also reduced its lending rate by some 2% per annum for all qualifying borrowing accounts. They've also removed all charges on interbank and mobile money transfers and on all their payment platforms electronically. And more banks supporting, including the Republic Bank, as also shown on the back page of the Business and Financial Times. On the front page of the new Crusading Guide, we do have the minority goes wild over investors breaching due process for government contracts. That's there, but the main story on the front page, still related to COVID-19. Stand up for Ghanaians, President Akufo-Addo to health workers. Meanwhile, the ADB has been donating to the COVID-19 Trust Fund. They donated 200,000 Ghana cedis in a bid to tackle COVID-19 and its effect. The National Lotteries Authority activates operations of official short code. Let's look at the last paper. It is the new publisher has on the front page, minority exposes Osafo Maafo over Unipass deal, and 9 in court for boozing in lockdown. Something I saw in my area, there's a helicopter. I'll show you the picture, I'm sure very soon, which had been going through many communities. So they were airborne and patrolling. It was quite instructive when the picture was taken while I was out. So I'll send the picture to my producer. We'll show you how the patrolling helicopter is branded. But Kojo, which stories are you looking at?
I've got to say, my first story, the one that struck me first, was this one in the Ghanaian Times. It says COVID-19 combat will come out with better health systems. That's according to the president. And it's gratifying, first of all, to see that the president has started to think about how this particular crisis is supposed to be a launch pad for us to solve a lot of the problems that we have failed to solve in the past. So what he said, and he was speaking to the Ghana Medical Association, who came to meet with him at Jubilee House. And he said that this outbreak of COVID-19 has opened his eyes, that's a quote, to the critical role private health institutions play in the country's health sector. Now, first of all, it's a pity that it took something like this for the president's eyes to be opened. But these are things that we've been talking about for such a long time. It kind of reminds me of what I talked about in today's message from the Morning Man. The fact that we've been lamenting our problems for so long without actually solving them. Now that the crisis is upon us, Now we're talking about solving them. All right, that's fine. But what exactly is the solution here? In the past, this was all politics. One party will come along and build infrastructure. Then another one will come along and say, oh, our solution is not infrastructure. Ours is to educate people. Ours is, you understand? So back and forth, the politics has always got in the way of the solutions. So I'm glad to hear the president saying that his eyes are opened. But what is that going to result in? We have several problems with our healthcare system. Apart from the National Health Insurance Scheme, which is really in tatters, even before COVID-19 came along, we have horrible infrastructure problems. No beds, no oxygen, no mental health whatsoever. These are some of the things that I want to hear the specific plans the president is going to put in place. If his eyes are open, what can he see? What does the future actually hold for our healthcare system?
And I think it's also in that light that it is important for all of us to put all expertise, professionals, and minds at work to see how we can progressively be more proactive than reactive. Even though we do know that coronavirus has caught the world and even some of the biggest economies pants down, I mean literally, it also speaks volumes about how we've always negated the health of the people that governments serve. And I'm hoping that post-coronavirus we will put at the center the health of the population. Because when you have a healthy population, ultimately, they contribute significantly to the economy that you want to supervise and grow. And they also become the better people by way of human capital, human resource. And then everybody will be all the better for it.
Absolutely. Now, get this, Ro. Africa spends about 3 times as much that we spend on drugs on 4x4s for government. So African governments, African leaders spend 3 times more on 4x4s than on drugs. So that is our prioritization. That is what is important to us. And it has to change. If the president says his eyes are open, then we need to start seeing it. We need to start seeing evidence of better healthcare provision than provision of comfort for ministers. Today, we have more appointees than we have ventilators. Now tell me, when people are dying, will they prefer to have an appointee or a ventilator? Who is more useful to us today in Ghana? A minister or a nurse? But this is what we've done to ourselves. We have lived as if our solutions are all political. Like the executive is the solution to every problem in Ghana. Now we know different. If the president's eyes are opened, I want to see evidence of it.
And I'm hoping that we will do better than we have, because, look, just in the wake of COVID, we've had the Chinese, indeed the Europeans and the Northern Americans straight away go to the laboratories, while we had gone to the churches and the prayer camps, or perhaps in our own backyard or in our rooms, try to go hard on worship. But it also speaks to what they think is their priority, investing in research and development, in science and technology, because that is what is going to take us where we have to go. That is also going to plan our population for us by way of how the growth rate is going to be. For example, you and I, in 20 years' time, will be sick or wobbly, or will be old and withering, so to speak, if I can use that.
Speak for yourself.
Definitely. But at the end of the day, we're definitely not going to be how we are today. So it means that we need better health care if we still want to live in this country. But the question we have to ask is, do we have the plans in place? Do we have the policies in place that you and I see today that give us the haven that we think when we're talking about health we can have 20 years from now?
Important question. Important question.
Yeah.
Anyway, his eyes are open. So let's pray that they can actually see, because you can have open eyes and still have glaucoma.
Definitely.
Anyway,
I just wanted us to have a 60-second, if not a 120-second. That's 2-minute look at the public. It's on the front page of the Daily Graphic. It says public defy lockdown directive in Accra and Kumasi. And if you take a look at that story, it talks about how there were many vehicles yesterday. I don't know whether you went out yesterday, because also that relates to a story on the front page of the New Publisher, which also states that 9 in court for boozing in lockdown, talking about those who defy the lockdown. Yesterday, I got the perspective that perhaps it could be because of all the concerns that had been raised about excesses, whether they're perceived or real, from the security personnel on ground, and so they seem to have relaxed the rules yesterday. What's your take on this?
If that is the case, and you might be right, but if that is the case, then it points to a bigger problem. It means that our police and security forces don't know how to enforce the law legally.
Oh, how
they
possible?
Don't know. So when they do it illegally and people complain, they don't know how to do it legally. So they've rather just decided not to do it. If you are right, then that's what it means. And that is a bigger problem. How can we have a police and a military that does not know how to handle people? So if they handle them wrong and we complain, then they decide not to handle them at all. I mean, what has changed? Does the police not know how to arrest a person? Does the police not know how to enforce a law, make somebody do the right thing? They don't know. But we've gone to Parliament to pass laws to give them powers to do all kinds of things. So in addition to using their discretion, which is a big power that has been given to the police, they can use their discretion to decide whether what you are doing is an essential service, whether what you are doing is essential, important, or not. So we saw an example, and I was very pleased to see it. A police officer stopped someone in a Mercedes-Benz. Asked them, where are you going? The person said, I'm going to buy wachi. The police officer said, that is not essential. Do you not have food in your house? If you were going to buy medicine, or you are going to buy something that is essential, you don't have it in your house, and you need it, I would have let you go. But you can live without wachi. We are not in ordinary times, so go home. I loved that. He didn't beat anybody. He simply used his power of discretion to enforce the law and sent this person home, rather than sending him to a place where he might end up getting contaminated, infected, or infecting others. So are the police saying they don't know how to do this? So that now that we've had reports that some of them are being excessive, they don't know how to be legal. They don't know how to do the right thing. I certainly hope not. I actually hope you are wrong, Ro. But you actually may be right. In which case, we are doomed.
Well, we hope that based on my observation today, we'll do a better job when it comes to trying to use that discretion, that discretionary power that has been given the security agencies to do what is right. Because what I did notice was that they were harsh to communities that were congested, that were said to be flashpoints during events like elections and etc. So I got to find that it was easier for me to penetrate or go through the routes in East Legon Cantonment than it was going through Nima or Ashaiman or many of those places. And it's where ultimately we saw the brutalities. But for me, I want the police to be high-handed, though.
Well, you don't have to be high-handed. You just have to implement the law. The law is so clear. The law has said that only leave your house for essential reasons. If you're an essential worker, or you are going to access healthcare or pharmaceutical service, or you're going to buy essential food. So any other person should be in home. It's actually simple. So it shouldn't be difficult for the police to do this. In fact, I was expecting that they will be patrolling in communities. Apart from being at these checkpoints, They'll be patrolling in communities. If they see you walking around, they ask you, where are you going? Or if they see people standing together, what are you doing together? What are you doing here? If it's not essential, please go home.
I think
that's what I expect to see.
I think that to hold brief for them, I've seen many of them on motorbikes, and they had this new beach-like track. Is it jet skis or some sort of the ones that not the ones used on water? I don't know the exact name. I've seen them use those tricycles, so to speak, in the communities.
Oh, you mean the quad bikes with the four wheels?
Quad bikes with the yes. So some of them are some of them are three-wheelers. I've seen them use them a couple of times in my community, and it's also in my community that a picture was taken of this helicopter. Apparently, there were some neighbors of mine who had meal together, having a drink or a party of a sort. So somebody took this picture in my community, and it's by helicopter. The picture will be on your screens, and just beneath it there was an inscription, COVID, stay home, COVID-19, stay home. My director will put that picture on the screens for you. It will be a bit blurred because it was taken a bit up, so you get to know. So the police and the security forces, I'm sure the Ghana Air Force, they use this to patrol communities. I can understand why they haven't come to Kojo's community, but I saw them in my community. So
why haven't they come to my community?
But it's we ain't paying you for. Say a low level.
So the law doesn't apply to us.
But the law applies to you as well, but the probability that you have people milling around, having a party, a drink, I think it's less than some of the hard communities.
Really?
So you have this.
I don't know about that.
I'm telling you, because you obey rules better than many people, and that's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, what we want to see is the police enforcing the law, because the law applies to all of us. There are no exceptions when it comes to this, apart from those that the law allows. And so for me, I want to see the law working. That is what will keep us all safe. So the police really need to up their game. If there are problems, they need to let us understand them, and so we can solve them immediately. Is there a reason why they can't enforce the law? Is there a reason why this week we are seeing more vehicles on the road than we saw last week? Why are all these extra people venturing out onto the roads this week? Who told them that it's okay for them to come out this week when they couldn't come out last week? So I really want to know. And some shops are opening as well that don't sell any essential items. We need to look into that as well. I mean, if a shop feels that they can open in the second week of a lockdown, then something has broken down, Roland.
Yeah, definitely, because we want to reduce the interactions or the interactivity. And essentially, that is what we want to do. We want to prevent that sort of communication where you have to get closer to somebody, because then we keep spreading the virus. The infection rate then will go high. That's essentially why we have the lockdown. All right, we have to look at myjoyonline.com. It will be on your screen soon. And you also take a look at what stories have been posted on our main portal, myjoyonline.com. You get to see which ones also are dominating or are trending as we have it. So myjoyonline.com is what we're looking at next. And I tell you, we'll have also a perspective about the stories that have been posted on myjoyonline.com. But Kojo, in the absence of myjoyonline.com, we have to take a break for now.
Absolutely.